Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to be doing my top 10 books of the year and also the 10 books that I want to read by the end of the year. Right now it's like the middle of November. It quite literally is the middle of November. It is November 15th. So basically I have a month and a half left of the year to read these 10 books. I'm not going to be too fussed if I don't read these 10 books by the end of the year, but yeah. And then also I'm going to share with you my top 10 books of the year that I've read so far. And just to get you excited for some books, maybe you haven't heard of these, probably you have, but I'm gonna share with you my top 10 books, the books that are on my radar to be reading towards the end of the year and then also probably into the next year because these are just like on my immediate thought list of books that I want to read. Okay, honestly, this year hasn't been the best for reading. I have read the earlier half of the year. I was really inspired, filmed a bunch of videos, uploaded those videos, graduated, fell off, and I was just like in a slump for the longest time. I was in a reading slump. I feel like every book that I've read so far has been pretty mediocre. I've been rating them 3 stars, 3.5 stars, not like all-time favorite books. And this year I've only read 2 5-star reads, which is absolutely insane, but I'm gonna share those. First, I'm gonna be talking about Britt Marie Was Here by Frederick Bachman. Last year, I started reading Frederick Bachman. I started with Beartown, and then I read the whole Beartown trilogy. The Beartown trilogy is like a 5-star series for me, and then I read Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I really enjoyed that one as well, gave it 5 stars at the end of last year. This year, in January, I read this Britt Marie Was Here, which is one of his books on his backlist, and I read it, fell in love with it. It gave me everything I loved about Beartown and a condensed version of that. And so the family, the way that this small town comes together to protect their own is so Beartown, and it was just so remarkable and I loved it so much. Basically, our main character, Britt Marie, she is a woman in her like 60s, 70s. She's coming off of a divorce and she's been reliant on this man and her ex-husband for so long. She doesn't really do anything besides be a wife and like was a mother to his children. And so now that their divorce is happening, the kids are grown up, she doesn't really know what to do anymore. And so she goes to like a temp agency, gets this job at a struggling town that is like really hit hard by like the economic recession that was happening in this town, trying to revive this like sport. It's like a rec sports center. Soccer is like a big part of this town, and like the kids and the children that rely on the sports center to like play soccer. Apparently this town is really poor. They are like, oh, we need a soccer coach, and Britt Marie was like, okay. She gets roped in to be a soccer coach for these children. She doesn't know anything about soccer, and she just like falls in love with this small town and gets her spark back after being so lost for her whole life. And I thought it was remarkable. I thought it was so beautiful. I recommend everybody read this. If you like Frederick Bachman's work, you're definitely gonna love this. So read this, read this, read this. This was one of the first 5 stars that I had this year. Next, second 5-star read that I had in the beginning of the year, I think it was either January or February as well, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. I love this. This is like considered an American classic. It's not like super classic because this was released post World War II or like in the middle of World War II, so like in the 40s. It's a classic in America basically, and I absolutely love this. This story is about everything and nothing at the same time. It's very reminiscent of like Little Women, where you're just like following this cast of characters, and I absolutely loved Francie. Francie's our main character. She is like 11. It just follows her time being super poor, where she really values education and reading, and so that's like one of her loves. And so it just follows Francie coming of age in Brooklyn, New York. So I just loved Francie. I loved the way she was interacting with everybody, and so her family's growing. Like her mother is like the provider for this family, and then her father is a performer. He also suffers with alcoholism, and so it just deals with these shifting family dynamics that are happening all throughout Francie's life in the most pivotal parts of her life. So like when she's like a young teenage girl trying to like come into the world, and she has to be one of the sole providers for her family. Also just like kind of like raise herself, raise her younger brother Neely, and just deal with everything that comes with being an older sister and like being in a family at this time. And so I just thought it was beautiful. I loved it. Sometimes it was boring, and sometimes like, I don't know, something just hit with me with this book that I just loved so much. I think it was just so beautiful. Some of the quotes in here were just amazing. I had a hard time getting into this, not in the way that it was written, but I was reading it and I was like, I feel like I was one of those people who was like, nothing's happening. And then I started reading the audiobook while I was like on my walks to classes and stuff like that, and I was just like so enraptured with the story, with the characters, that it just like felt so real, and like I don't know, I just felt something with this book, and so I gave it a 5 stars. I haven't had a book make me feel like this since I read this book, and that was like in the beginning of this year. So yeah, loved A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Love it so much. Next are books that are in the 4.5-star category. These are not in order, but I'm gonna share the ones that I have. The next book I am gonna be talking about is Homesickling by Carissa Chen. This is a historical fiction book. It spans 60 years of Haiwen and Suchi's life. They're best friends when they're little kids. That was in the midst of World War II and just like a conflict that was happening in China with like the Japanese, and like just the whole like world was at war with each other. And then it just deals with them and their lives and how they disconnect, reconnect with each other. This book is told in like interconnecting, like weaving storylines, and so the storylines go from past to present, and so Haiwen's chapters are from the present going to the past, and then they interconnect with Suchi's chapters that are going from past to present. It just deals with their lives. I thought it was really beautiful, and then it also deals with their immigrant stories from going from China to America and how they just navigated all that. And at this point of their lives, they're older and they each have different outlooks of life now. Haiwen is still raptured by Suchi and his love for her, and Suchi's really realist. She's like, I'm so old, I'm gonna die. My family that I've raised without you are living now, and I can't really be sucked back into what I was like when I was this like starry-eyed girl lusting after you. And so I loved the storytelling in this one. I love Asian American stories. I think they're just so beautiful. Also because like it just hit home for me. I always have a soft spot for all these Asian American stories, and I just think it's a beautiful story. Also a big part of this book, if you watch the film Past Lives by Celine Song, the themes of past lives and this book are really like interconnected. And like Past Lives is a Korean film, and this one is really talking about the Chinese diaspora, and so like China, Taiwan, and how they're all connected with Japan and everything like that. And so I don't know, this story is really beautiful. It's historical, and like you're learning something while reading this heartbreaking and beautiful story about these two characters that are so fictional, but like the things that are happening in their lives are real and like rooted in real life. If you want to read it, read it. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. This type of like historical literary fiction is just so up my alley, and I really resonated with the story. Next, I'm going to be talking about The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. I love this book, gave it 4.5 stars. Such a beautiful romance. The concept of it is really like wild and kooky, but I had such a great time reading it. I loved the characters. It reminded me so much of like 90s, 2000s rom-coms, and I just loved the feeling that it gave me. It just like gives kooky like Bridget Jones, but also not Bridget Jones, but like also just like a Nora Ephron movie, and it was just beautiful. I loved it. It's so you know what I mean? It was just so my type of rom-com. But basically Tiffy is getting out of a relationship and she needs to find a place to live, and Leon is strapped for cash. He kind of needs some more cash, but like he rents out his apartment, his 1-bedroom apartment, for the nighttime. So Tiffy can sleep in the apartment during night and then go to work in the day, and then they never really have to see each other because Leon is like a nurse type of thing, and so he is working throughout the night. He doesn't need the apartment throughout the night, and he goes and like while Tiffy's working, he'll stay in the apartment and do his thing, and they just won't really run into each other. They go through the motions of that. They start becoming friends because they start leaving notes to each other, and so watching their friendship blossom from people that don't really know each other, also like being in this odd situation of living in the same apartment, sleeping in the same bed, as the relationship blossoms, as their friendship blossoms, and just the way that they connect to each other on such a deeper level. It was just a beautiful story. I loved it. I loved the way that they came to care about each other, and I think that this book and the yearning that these characters had for each other was so much better than like a lot of contemporary romance that are put out today. Even though this was like it's very contemporary. It's like 2019, 2020, 2021 that Beth O'Leary released this. I really loved it. It just gave me so 90s, 2000s rom-com movie, and so I love those types of movies. I know it's not like everyone's cup of tea. Saying that they're sleeping in the same bed, living in the same apartment, don't really interact is like so stupid, but like I loved it. So I really recommend you guys read this. Next, Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. This one is also another rom-com, and I love this one as well. I think that Strangers to Friends to Lovers is my favorite. I don't know why. I don't know why. Like in The Flat Share, these characters became such great friends, and they really understood each other on a deeper level, and then those romantic feelings, the lines kind of blurred from friendship to romantic. So our main character, Lenny, she's like a temporary nanny, and so she gets intertwined with this family, and like the workaholic mom, the daughter, and then the like uncle that doesn't really know what to do and how he's like fits into the life of his niece. Lenny is trying to help Miles, who is the uncle, connect to his niece. Miles has dealt with grief, and so he's trying to help Lenny like figure out herself after her best friend has died. So recognize that not everything's so bleak after one of the most important people in her life has passed away. So they're helping each other. And so he and her are like at this mutual agreement where they just help each other. And I think that the friendship that blossoms from there is so beautiful, and it's just so amazing to read about. It's really emotional. I loved it. This romance was so emotional in the way that it approached everything, especially because it deals with like such triggering topics of like such as loss and everything like that. And so having that stable emotional connection between characters and friendships and then blossoming it into like a more romantic relationship was just amazing. And I thought it was so well done. I've read another Cara Bastone book and before that deals with like pregnancy trope, and so that one I just didn't really care for that book at all. I don't remember the main character's name, but I remember everyone loving the guy main character, and his name was Shep, and I didn't really care for Shep. I took a chance on Cara Bastone again, and I really enjoyed this one, and I really recommend it. I can't wait to read her next one. I don't know if it's gonna hit as much as this one hit for me this time, but I'm excited to read her next book. So Cara Bastone, watch out. My sixth book that I'm going to be talking about is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I love Emily Henry books. I had high hopes going into this one because I've heard so many great things, and like the reviews that are happening before this one was released got me really excited. It is very Evelyn Hugo, but like also it's not Evelyn Hugo, and so like I don't like comparing it to Evelyn Hugo because of that, but I thought it was great. I think the romance in here was not the best, but I also really enjoyed the characters, and when they did have like that banter and romantic tension between each other, I really liked it. But I feel like it does come out of left field a little bit, and so that's why it's not like my favorite Emily Henry book. I think it's my fourth favorite Emily Henry book, but I did love this a lot more than I loved Funny Story. I liked the plot of our main character Alice, like she's trying to do a biography of a famous heiress, and I love the heiress plotline. I love just rich people drama. I don't know, just this time of my life, I look back at it really fondly. I'm reading this book, I'm in the midst of like my finals of my college career, and it's just like the way that I was putting off my finals to read this book just like brings back some memories for me, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked this book. I thought it was well done. I thought Hayden was fine. He's not my favorite Emily Henry man. I just really enjoyed Alice's character, and I liked the way that she felt safe with Hayden, even though like they're in like these rivals situation where they're both vying to be the author of the heiress's book. I thought it was beautiful. I think some of it is a little bit cliche in the way that like things were panning out and like the plot unraveled, just like the plot twist and stuff like that. I don't knock Emily Henry. I just loved it. People can say that they were so disappointed with this, but I will reread this one day. And I was in my Sofia Coppola phase as well, so I was watching Sofia Coppola's version of Priscilla. I don't know. I don't really know much about Elvis, but like it reminded me of that era of like just the star. I think it was fun. I liked it, so yeah, whatever. That's all that matters, that I liked it. And next, I'm going to be talking about Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. I gave this one also 4.5 stars. It's the ending of the first trilogy of the Mistborn series. And I think it wrapped up in a way that I was happy with. I was happy with the story, and I was happy with the outcome of Vind and like this whole like big war that she was helping stopping. Yeah, if you don't really know Mistborn, Mistborn is the first book of this trilogy, and Brandon Sanderson's works are just so easy to read. I think they are really wordy, and I feel like a lot of it could be chopped out, but like also it could play into like the bigger sphere of the Cosmere. And so don't take my word as gospel, because a lot of people are ride or die Brandon Sanderson fans, but I thought it was good. I just think it was really engaging. I think the second book of this one was boring. I liked this one because it blended the stuff that I loved about the first Mistborn and the second Mistborn that I didn't really care for into a book that was so engaging, and then like it didn't feel like it was slogging through the politics. Book 2 felt like I was slogging through politics a lot of the time, like politic talk, and it was just like talk of what these decisions are. I think in hindsight it's really good to read about of like after what happened in book 1, but it was boring while I was reading it. This one blended the action and the politic talk into something that was super engaging, and I think that the chapters in this were a lot smaller than in book 2. We got perspective of different characters that I really enjoyed. I love that storyline and how it beats into the world a little bit more than just like the magic system of Alamancy and Vind's storyline. Vind's the main character. She is a Mistborn, and so the Mistborn series, if you don't really know anything, they get their powers from like different metals. A lot of the Alamancers in this book, they can only utilize one metal, but Vind is Mistborn, so she can utilize all the 12 metals and the secret metals as well. So I thought it was fun. I don't know when I'm gonna read the next, like in Brandon Sanderson's works. I think my next book that I'm going to try to read is The Way of Kings. I know it's not recommended to read it that way. I think people say you really want to start with Mistborn and then go into like some other standalone books before you go into the next like big chunk of a series. And The Way of Kings is such a massive series. It's such a massive book. That's my next one, and I haven't read much fantasy, and so after this, I don't know if I'm like in the mood for fantasy, because I did fall into a fantasy slump, but whatever. The 8th book I'm going to be talking about is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I'm going to tell you, this is inspired by Shakespeare's life, and not just Shakespeare, but a changing of Shakespeare's wife's name. Anne Hathaway is Shakespeare's wife in real life, and so our main character is actually Agnes. It deals with her life before she's married, how she gets married, as she becomes a mother, how she deals with loss, becoming a mother, being a wife in this like time period of like the 1500s. I thought it was really beautiful. I just really enjoyed it. This one is a 4.25 stars. I really liked it. I'm so excited for the movie adaptation to come out. It's already out some places. I think a lot of people have seen it. It's just not accessible to me right now, so I haven't watched it. I'm really excited for it. I'm not gonna talk too much. I think it's just a story that you have to just like go into, read about it. I really enjoyed the way that Agnes was portrayed in this book. I've seen some things about like the performance of the person that, I don't know her name, Emma, that plays Agnes, and I'm super excited for it. That's all I really can say to you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy what I had to say about this one. You read it, you figure it out. Really, it's heartbreaking, it's sad, and I thought the way that everything panned out was beautiful. So read Hamnet. Next book I'm going to be talking about is The Wedding People by Alison Espach. I gave this one a 4.25 as well. I really enjoyed this. Not what I was expecting with this like general fiction book, and I thought it was just really beautiful. And the way that our main character Phoebe just kind of like changes her life. She's at this hard moment in her life where she doesn't feel the will to go on. So she goes to a dream destination spot in this dream hotel that she has and books a night there, and she's planning to end her life. This hotel is like all booked out for a wedding. Coming to the end of her life, she meets these people that are here for this girl's wedding. The bride and Phoebe kind of like make a connection because Phoebe doesn't have any stakes in this whole like game, and Phoebe and the bride is like, I cannot have you dying on my wedding week. They become friends like the most unlikely way, that they're just like so good together and they mesh so well because they both don't have stakes in their lives. And so the bride is telling Phoebe what's gonna happen, like you don't need to do this, and Phoebe's telling her that like as the bride is ranting to her about like this whole wedding, the whole situation that she's in, that she can change her life. She has the autonomy and the agency to not just be a pushover in her life and just like do exactly what she wants. And then she's learning these lessons that she's telling this bride to herself. It ends really beautifully. I really enjoyed it. I think sometimes a little bit of the plot was like a little like happenstance, and I was like, oh, what? And seeing Phoebe physically get out of this slump in her life and become the person that she was before what happened to her in this book happened to her. I just really loved the unlikely friendship between Phoebe and everyone in this wedding, but also specifically the bride. Those two characters are like complete opposites of each other, and they really needed each other to like open their lives up to different possibilities, different things. I love the way that the plot unraveled and everything happened. So yeah, there's that. I love this book. And then the last book I have for my top 10 books of the year is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bodum Young. Like I said, I did not like Cara Bustone's Ready or Not, which deals with a pregnancy. Out on a Limb is so different for me because I absolutely loved Out on a Limb. I think Hannah Bodum Young did such an amazing job with these two characters. Basically, our main character Wynn gets pregnant from this guy named Beau, and they have like a one-night stand. Their lives are connected from that point on. This book is so beautiful because it does, like again, it happens with them being strangers to friends to lovers. Oh my god, they become such like a force to be reckoned with because they are coming together to co-parent this child that they're gonna have to raise, but they fall in love. Throughout their relationship, it was just so comedic, so fun. Reminds me of so like romantic comedy, the 90s and the 2000s, and I just think it was just like really beautiful. Like I love the blueprint of a romance that feels like it could be like a Nora Ephron movie. I loved the way that Wynn and Beau were so communicative to each other, and they were just telling each other exactly what they needed, because Beau and Wynn both deal with this feeling of like not being able to be loved because of their physical attributes. And so Beau has the bottom half of his leg is amputated, and Wynn was born and raised with physical disability that makes one of her arms smaller, and so they're blind to those differences towards each other, but they feel those insecurities for themselves. And just seeing the way that they kind of just like blur out the like all the insecurities between each other once they become friends and then lovers, and like just their friendship was so beautiful. Loved it so much. I love an emotional strangers to friends and lovers. I just love it. It's my cup of tea. I love it so much. But yeah, there's that, and that's all the 10 books that I loved this year. A lot of this was beginning of the year, but out of these 10 books, 3 of them were new releases. Great Big Beautiful Life, Promise Me Sunshine, and Home Seeking were 3 new releases. For the genre breakdown of my top 10 favorite books of this year. 4 romances, which were The Flat Chair, Promise Me Sunshine, Great Big Beautiful Life, and Out on a Limb. 1 modern American classic, which was Tree Grows in Brooklyn. 1 literary fiction book, which was Britt Marie Was Here by Frederick Bachman. 2 historical literary fictions, which were Home Seeking and Hamnet. And then 1 general fiction, which was The Wedding People. And then 1 fantasy, which was Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. That's the genre breakdown of like some of my favorite books. Right now, I love historical literary fiction or just a literary fiction book or a general fiction book right now. I've always been partial to romances because those have made me fall in love with reading. So I love a contemporary romance. I think they're just beautiful. Hopefully you found these recommendations fun and they're on your want to read. So I'm going to be talking about the 10 books that I want to read by the end of the year. I don't really know. I'm just going to show you them. I'm going to share their summaries if I do know them, or I will just look them up on Goodreads. So here are the 10 books that I want to read pretty soon, but probably not all by the end of the year. But these are on my radar right now. So here we go. First we have We Love You Bunny by Mona Awad. I've read 3 other Mona Awad books. My favorite Mona Awad book was Bunny, and so this is a sequel to Bunny. Sam, our main character of Bunny, she has published her first novel and it's received a critical acclaim. Okay, so some of the bunnies aren't really happy with the way that they're portrayed in the book, and so they kidnap her. They're telling their side of the story. So it's part in the future and then part in the past of what happened in the first book and how the bunnies are now retelling their part of the story. So I'm excited. I really enjoyed Bunny. This is like a dark academia, literary fiction, contemporary thriller, horror, fantasy type of beat. Some of the reviews aren't the best, but some of them were good. That they liked this one as much as they liked Bunny, but some really hated it. So I just want to see how my review is gonna go off this one, because I don't really remember too much of Bunny, but I really enjoy reading Bunny. You know what I mean? Next is The Bright Years by Sarah DeMoff. This one is a new release that was released this year. It's just like a family drama, family historical fiction, literary fiction drama, some of my favorites. It deals with this family that goes back 4 generations and a secret son in Texas. Yeah, it's a heartfelt family saga. Ryan and Lillian Bright are deeply in love, recently married and now parents to a baby girl, Georgette. Lillian has a son that she hasn't told Ryan about, and Ryan has an alcohol addiction he hasn't told Lillian about. So Georgette comes of age watching their marriage rise and fall. When a shocking blow scatters their fragile trio, Georgette tries to distance herself from reminders of her parents. Years later, Lillian's son comes searching for his birth family, so Georgette must return to her roots, unearth her family's history, and decide whether she can open up to a love for them or herself. Told from 3 intimate points of view, The Bright Years is a tender, true-to-life novel that explores the impact of each generation in family, torn apart by tragedy, but over time restored by the power of grace and love. People really love this book, and I'm super excited to read it. Next is Female Fantasy. Oh my god, I don't know how to say this author, but I'm gonna put it down here. I think it's Aman. Basically, this is a romance novel, and it's a romance novel of this girl. She's been going on dates, like these dates with these men don't live up to this fictional boyfriend that she's put into her mind, and so like her fantasy boyfriend basically. I don't know, it sounded really fun. Let me read you the actual description. Junie is living in fantasy, at least that's what people tell her. Men in the real world have done nothing but disappoint her time and time again, so she keeps her heart reserved for Reich, the fictional male lead of her favorite romance series who just happens to be a merman. And so far, her book boyfriend is meeting her needs more than any other real man has. But when she learns that Reich's character is based on a friend of the author, Junie is determined to track him down and take her shot at her happily ever after. Unhinged as it is brilliant, Female Fantasy is a both self-aware dive into the concept of genre and a wild, steamy romp. Most of all, it's a heartfelt love letter to romance readers everywhere. I read that and I was like so in my romance era, and then I was looking at romance recommendations. This one came up a lot, and I'm excited to read it. I hope I get to it by the end of the year. Next, I have The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. This one has been on my radar a little bit. All I know is that it's a fantasy folktale retelling. I don't know if it's a retelling, but I have read another book by Ava Reid. I read A Study in Drowning and Juniper and Thorn. I liked Juniper and Thorn. I didn't really care for A Study in Drowning, but yeah, I'm excited to read it. Let me read you the description. Okay, our main character is the only woman without power, making her an outcast. Villagers blame her corrupted bloodline. When the monsters attack the woodsman and their captive, slaughtering everyone but our main character and a captain. They have no choice to rely on each other. Blah, blah, blah. It's like a pagan retelling. Historical fiction, retelling, mythology, pagan history. Inspired by Hungarian history and Jewish mythology, follows a young pagan woman with hidden powers and her one-eyed captain of the woodsman as they form an unlikely alliance to thwart a tyrant. Okay. Yeah, it's just a fantasy book. I don't know when I'm gonna get onto this, but I seen that a lot of people really like this one a lot more than they liked Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reid. And so some of the people that didn't really care for Juniper and Thorn were disappointed because they really enjoyed Wolf and the Woodsman. So yeah, next on my want to read list is Catabasis by R.R. Kuang. Before it was released, I was super excited for it, like in March, I would say. And I've read a couple R.R. Kuang's books. I've read The Poppy War, the first one, haven't read the rest of the series. Read Babel, really enjoyed Babel, and then I also read Yellowface. So I'm excited to read this one. This one's more Dark Academia like Babel, but it deals with, I don't know if it's fully Greek mythology, but they are going to the underdepths of hell. I don't know. My best friend read this. She liked it. I don't know exactly her thoughts on it because she didn't tell me because it might have been spoilers, but she thought it was fine. She does like Babel better, but I'm excited to see my thoughts on this. I remember when everyone's super excited about this, but I haven't really heard much about it because I've just like scrolled past because I didn't want to know anything about Catabasis. This has been on my radar forever. When I made my like 25 books I want to read in 2025, this was on there and I haven't gotten to it yet. So yes. Next is The Strength of the Few by James Islington. I read The Will of the Many by James Islington, and this book is the second in the series. I don't know much about it. I don't know much about this, but I know it's the second in the book, and I gave The Will of the Many 4.5 stars when I read it last year. Really enjoyed it. Can't wait to get into it, but don't know when. I'm never really in my fantasy mood right now, and so there are a lot of fantasy books on this list that I really want to read. Maybe I want to get my toe back into it. I really loved fantasy when I was reading it, but I kind of got burnt out with fantasy, so maybe. Yes, oh my god, I can't tell you anything about this, but I do think I need a refresh on what happens in The Will of the Many. My memory's not good, but I remember really enjoying it. It was slow getting into, but I really liked it. I liked the way that it ended. The Will of the Many is it's like an academy book that is similar to The Poppy War of R.R. Kuang, but like less war heavy than R.R. Kuang's one. I feel like The Will of the Many is like a mix between The Poppy War, honestly Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, a little bit like the way that the main character is, and like kind of Red Rising. That's my like amalgamation of like books that a lot of other people have read. Like I'm saying, like The Will of the Many is really popular as well. But yeah, I really want to read the second book of that. Don't know when it's gonna happen, but it will happen one day. Next, I want to read The Everlasting by Alex E. Harlow. It's a dual timeline book. Follows like the mythology and the history of like this really highly regarded knight. Her history of her like becoming this like myth, and then also this historian that is like obsessed with like the knight's myth, and then it's like a magical realism. He goes back in time, I think, or she goes into the future. Una and Owen are tangled together in time, bound to retell the same story over and over again, no matter what it costs. But that story always ends the same. If they want to rewrite Una's legend, they have to tell a different story. They have to rewrite history itself. I read The Starling House by Alex E. Harlow. I didn't really care for it, I'm not gonna lie, but I am excited for this one. Next, I have The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. I read Hamnet, and so I really want to read more Maggie O'Farrell. I don't know exactly, but this is set in the 1550s, and it's another historical fiction. Lucretia, daughter of the third Duke, that's her main character. When her older sister dies on the eve of her wedding, the ruler, Lucretia, is thrust into limelight. Probably has to marry that guy. She's leaving girlhood behind. She must enter an unfamiliar court whose customs are opaque and where her arrival is not universally welcomed. In the court's eyes, she has one duty: to provide the heir that will shore up the future of the dynasty. Until then, for all her rank and nobility, the new duchess's future hangs entirely in the balance. I love historical fiction that deals with like princesses, like court type of being. I've read this one fan fiction that is super into this, and yeah, I'm not gonna tell you who it's for. I revisit that fan fiction once a year, maybe twice a year at the end, like beginning and the end, so just like refresh my memory. I'm excited to read this. If it's anything like Hamnet, I'm gonna love it. I really liked the way that Maggie O'Farrell wrote in Hamnet, so excited for this. Next, I have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Yeah, I've always wanted to read this. You guys know Pride and Prejudice. I've watched the movie adaptation so many times, but I want to know what it's like to read a Jane Austen book. I read Emma by Jane Austen a while ago, and so like now that I feel like I'm a lot more in tune with this type of like, not this type of writing specifically, but like a book that does nothing, a book that feels like it, like nothing's happening, but stuff is happening and you just have to really be connected to it. And so I feel like how I feel about reading a Jane Austen book now, if I read this one, than when I read Emma 2.5 years ago, I feel like it's different. I feel like it's different. It's gonna hit different right now. And then my last book that I really want to read by the end of the year that I probably will is Hat Trick by Chelsea Curto. I am obsessed with hockey romances right now. I don't know what happened in this last month, but I read like 4 or 5, maybe 6 hockey romances. I don't really know. I'm obsessed. And this is the next book in the series of Chelsea Curto's DC Star series. And I think I love it, an interconnected romance like this, especially in like a sports team aspect, because the sports team is so found family that it's just so good. Like I've missed found family, characters being so intertwined in each other's lives that like realistically this is not like how everything is in life, but like the fact that you can write these fictional characters that are just so obsessed with each each other and like want to spend time with each other 24/7. It scratched an itch in my brain and I'm so excited to read this one. Hat Trick follows Lexi and Riley, who's a younger person on the DC Stars, which is the DC like hockey team that everyone's in. Other 3 male main characters were on the DC Stars as well. I don't really know much about Riley from reading the other book because he is like in the younger generation. And so Maverick, Liam, Hudson, they're like the 3 dads of the group because they have been with the DC Stars forever and they're like 30s. I think Riley's like 25 and so he's like younger than them. We don't really see much of Riley and like the younger people of the DC Stars in like the starting lineup, the first string, other than like in text messages from all the other books. I've read like thousands of pages of hockey romance in a while. So yeah, I'm excited to read this one. This one also follows the athletic trainer who deals with like their injuries and stuff like that, Lexi. And so I want to see how they come to be together. I know what happens to Riley in this book from the summary, but I want to see what happens because I don't know what's gonna happen. So I have to read the books. That's the 10 books that I want to read by the end of the year. Some of them I'm probably going to get to more immediately, like the romances, because I'm just in a romance mood. I'm in a romance mood. So please, 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 I'm so sorry that I'm not going to be reading fantasy books. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I haven't really recommended stuff in a while. The way that I recommend, I am a lot more talkative in my recommendation, and I do focus more on plot summaries and like how the books made me feel and like what I'm looking to get out of the books over like tropey stuff. So like I could have been a lot more short-winded than how I am. And yeah, I haven't filmed one of these like recommendation type of videos in a long time and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I've been AWOL. I just kind of lost a lot of spark for booktube and everything like that, and honestly I wasn't feeling the creative drive to do that. So I also got burnt out because I did like a 30-day straight series on my TikTok that took a lot of effort and I haven't created anything since then. I'm here, I'm trying, I really am. Yeah, hopefully next year I'm just more inspired because this year kind of fell off. Last year I did really well for myself, pat myself on the back. Last year I created some videos I was super proud of, and so I'm hoping into the next year I get my spark back a little bit because the creative drive just wasn't there for a while. But I hope you guys thought these were interesting. Hope you guys got some inspiration and like books that you want to read from my recommendations, also the stuff that I want to read. Get some inspo because I was in the dumps. And hopefully these sound interesting to you and can help you get out of your reading slump if you're in a reading slump. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys and I'll see you guys in my next video whenever that is. Bye!